Iona College. Welcome back to the Sports Vault. Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob here, and we're just going to finish off our NBA segment and get right into our NHL Playoff segment. So let's kick it right off with the Warriors and the Clippers last night. Again, like we were just saying about the Hawks and the Thunder, you have 3 Game 7s in the NBA Saturday. It's just going to be an amazing, incredible day for sports. I mean, Game 7s are just so exciting to watch, and these have been back and forth series. Really looking forward. But last night you had another game going to a Game 7 with the Warriors getting a win at home 100-99. And Rob, when I see this series, I just see two teams that are just so high-powered offenses. I think these two teams are made to play each other. I think if they played each other 100 times, they'd split 50 times apiece. So similar, but I mean, just such a good rivalry right now.
Yeah, it's awesome, Joe. You kind of wish they didn't have to play each other.
Yeah, in the first round.
I get aggravated. I sit at home and I'm like, you know what? I kind of want the Warriors to move on. I kind of want the Clippers to move on. Overall, just a great series. Steph Curry, Joe, you know, we always hit on how great of a scorer he really is. He really has just turned into a great point guard in this series overall. Great passer in this series. And I say he's really improved from what I've seen earlier in this year. You know, he's the usual turnover guy who just scores. And this series, I've seen something different, and I'm very impressed and very proud of what he's done.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the good thing about the NBA right now is you got so many young and exciting point guards. I mean, you've got guys like Damian Lillard and Stephen Curry. I mean, man, it's great to see such good point guard play and so many good young ones. But that's going to wrap it up for our NBA part of our segment. And now we're going to jump right into the NHL playoffs as I sit and I look at my friend Pete Considori, huge hockey fan. So that's why we're going to start it off with the New York Rangers against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The first game is tonight at 7 o'clock as Pete does the Rangers chant. The Rangers fan, they're fired up, and they should be, because I keep saying it on this show. Marc-Andre Fleury is a disaster waiting to happen. The Rangers need to play good defense, which they do, and the goals will come against Fleury. I think that if you're a fan of them, you got to be worried, because it's just Pittsburgh is a good team, but Fleury is he just gives up the game at the most inopportune times. Crosby and Malkin have really got to step it up more than they did in the Columbus series, because they've got to really make up for the slack that Andre Fleury gives them. The only thing that worries me about the Rangers is that Flyer series went 7 games. I think the Rangers are really going to need to be more aggressive on the road, because there was a couple games there where they lost at Philly where they were just really bad losses. But I think that this is a good matchup for the Rangers. I really do believe that if Marc-Andre Fleury keeps on, unless he wakes up miraculously, which he's just never been known to in the playoffs, I think that the Rangers are going to have a good shot to get past the Penguins here.
I have them winning the Stanley Cup.
Wow. You're going out on a limb. You're saying they're going to win the Stanley Cup.
They are going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't
Holy
care
cow.
what anybody says to me. I don't care if I'm wrong. I have the faith we are going to win it. You know what? This is going to be a great series. The last 3 games versus the Flyers, the Rangers have done such a great job, and they shot so great on goal, and they're just going to abuse Fleury, I think, in this series. They could average about 4 to 5 goals off him. He is terrible. You just got to find a way to shut down Sidney Crosby, take him down, hit him as much as you can in this series. You got to keep him off the ice. This guy is very dangerous, very explosive, but they have to protect against him, play great defense. This series, right now, I'm telling you, this is a 7-game series, and the Rangers are going to win this series. It's going to be Henrik Lundqvist has to lead this team. Henrik Lundqvist has to be that awesome goalie, and the defense really needs to step up versus Pittsburgh.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with all those points there. The next series that you've got is the Wild versus the Blackhawks. First game is Friday tonight, 9:30 p.m. And the Blackhawks wanted to play the Wild over the Avalanche. They were afraid of Colorado's speed and youth. So the Blackhawks got the matchup they wanted. We'll see if it actually works out for them. The Wild I think are a slightly better matchup. But I like the Blackhawks to get back to the Cup. They're my team. I think I'm saying it now. I think the Blackhawks are going to win it all again, and they're going to repeat. I just think right now Patrick Kane, Marian Hossa, Jonathan Toews, and Duncan Keith are heating up. When the core of that team and all those position players start playing well like this, the Blackhawks are just a dangerous team because they have a lot of depth. Joe Quenneville, he's done a fantastic job with the lines on this team. The Blackhawks are just such a good, fundamentally sound hockey team. They have depth on all their lines. I love watching them play. And Corey Crawford, you need a good goalie right now. This is the most important time when your goalie needs to step up. Corey Crawford is playing really well right now, and I think that right now he's getting in that zone. I said it. I think the Blackhawks, they're my pick to win the Stanley Cup right now.
Those are great points right there, Joe. This Blackhawk team, I wish Mr. Pete would have listened to me when I said to pick them over the Blues.
We
should have listened to me.
I told him, I said, you don't pick against the defending Stanley Cup champion in the first round. Now, the Blues did play well. They gave him a good run. They won the first 2 games, but just, I think in the first round, you can't pick against the defending champ.
The Blackhawks, I will never pick against this team. This is a team that's always dominating in the West. I don't know if they'll be in the Stanley Cup this year. I see that. I think they're going to be playing the Kings in the Western Conference Finals.
I have them playing each other.
And I think the Kings are going to make it again to the championship, though.
Wow. Well, let's get to the Kings then, because I have a lot to say about the Kings. The Kings come back against the Sharks after being down 3-0. Now, everyone who listens to the show knows I'm an avid Sharks fan, but I have a rant prepared for the Sharks, which I will get to after this matchup. So let's get to this matchup first before I go on this rant. The Jonathan Quick, he struggled in the first 2 games against the Sharks tremendously. Gave up 12 total goals. But man, I say it all the time. When Jonathan Quick is playing at the level he's capable of, there's no one in the NHL better. He is just money. I mean, he really bounced back. The last 3 games against the Sharks, Quick only let up 2 goals. When he's focused and he is locked in, there's no one better in the NHL than Jonathan Quick. He makes some saves that boggles my mind. I'm a huge Jonathan Quick fan, and I think that when he's playing like this, I think the Ducks have a better roster than the Kings do, position player-wise, line-wise, but I don't think that they can make up for the Jonathan Quick equation because Quick is going to keep these games close enough where the Kings' offense is going to be able to pick up the goals they need. I think that they will win this series.
Well, here's the thing, Joe. For the Kings to win this series, they cannot be laid back like they were against San Jose. Lucky to get alive out of that series. But you know what? After winning those 4 games, San Jose just brought back championship winner Jonathan Quick. So you know what? Anaheim better be prepared. You do not want to see that Jonathan Quick. That guy will shut you down. And every game will shut you down. So you better watch out for this Kings team.
I mean, I sound like a broken record, but I really can't say enough about how good Jonathan Quick is. You just need to watch him play to just marvel at how good this guy is because he is just so much fun to watch. But I promised it. The San Jose Sharks rant is here. Like I was saying before, the Sharks are up 3-0 on the Kings. They end up losing the series. Out of the 3 major American pro sports leagues with 7-game postseason series, only 4 teams have blown a 3-0 lead. You had the Maple Leafs over the Red Wings in 1942, the Islanders over the Penguins in 1975, the Flyers over the Bruins in 2010, and the Red Sox over the Yankees in 2004. And now the San Jose Sharks are now a member of that elusive club to blow a 3-0 lead. It's tough to say because since 2003, the Sharks and the Red Wings have made the most playoff appearances. The Red Wings have made 128 games, 2 cup appearances, and 1 Stanley Cup victory. The San Jose Sharks have been to 113 postseason games and 0 playoff appearances. The last season, the Sharks lost a 7-game series to the Kings. Phenomenal regular season. The year before that, the Sharks almost blew another 3-0. They played the Red Wings. They were up 3-0. They allowed the Red Wings to come back. The series was tied up 3-3, and then they lost the series. I'm sorry, they beat the Red Wings and then moved to play the Kings and lost the series. That's the year where Jonathan Quick got his first Stanley Cup win. I just think that the Sharks, they've earned the reputation as kings of choking. I mean, and I think for sometimes I defended it, but you can't defend this team anymore. The Sharks are the literal representation of a team that just chokes in the biggest moments. They've earned the reputation as the king of the chokers. And I'm really disappointed for the veterans like Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau. I mean, they're not going to be around forever, and I think the nucleus of the Sharks team is getting older and older, and that window is definitely closing. And this is one of the toughest losses it's got to be. I mean, it's just really, really tough, this Sharks organization.
Joe, you got to change teams, Joe. You got.
I can't do it.
I'm sorry. The Sharks aggravate me too, Joe. They are always up there in the West. I don't understand it. I don't understand how you play so good during the regular season and then you suck in the playoffs. I don't understand it whatsoever. But Joe, you can't be a Sharks fan, buddy.
I gotta do it. I can't.
You gotta come out and support the Rangers, man.
I can't change my team. I mean, that's the thing that's tough, right? I mean, you're so excited because you go into the playoffs and during the regular season you look like you can beat anybody. You have a lot of talent. And then when it comes to the playoffs, you're up 3-0 and you lose. I mean, it's happened 5 times now in American sports. It's just incredible. And if anybody could do it, of course, the Sharks would be one of those 5 teams. It's really disappointing. And one of the possible solutions I would say maybe is throughout this time, I mean, the Sharks have been a very persistent winner since about 2000. But during that time, they've never had a consistent goalie. They've had Nabokov, who is good. They have Niemi now, who's good. But they've never had a dominant goalie. And what I would say is maybe, since the Sharks window is closing, you trade some of your really valuable position, maybe 1 or 2, and you try to get a really good goalie. Because I think that if you did lose a good position player or 2, the Sharks have enough depth overall to make up for that. And who knows, if they had a good goalie, that could really change things up for the Sharks. But what have you seen on that front, Rob? Do you think not having a dominant goalie has really maybe been a part of this collapse in the playoffs so many times?
I would say sort of, but I don't. It's playoff hockey. It's a totally different game, I would say. You know, you may finish at the top. You could see that in the West. A lot of people finish at the top. But playoff hockey is totally different, and the Sharks, they need to improve goalie because that's one thing you need come playoff time. Even AFC, the Stars gave Anaheim a run. Everybody in hockey who makes the playoffs, it's not like basketball where you get an AFC and you could win, maybe you could beat a team in like 4 games or 5 games. In here, it's 7-game series, almost every series, 6 to 7 games.
Well, I mean, it's like you look at the first round matchup with the Blue Jackets and the Penguins. The Penguins are the far better team, but Bobrovsky on the Blue Jackets, he played well. He kept the Blue Jackets in those games. And Andre Fleury, despite him, the Penguins still won. So I think that I reiterate it. I mean, good goalies are what wins the Stanley Cup. Corey Crawford last year. You had Jonathan Quick before that. Good goalies are what you need to get to the next level right now. And overall, I mean, I had to go on that little Sharks rant. It's tough to see, but we'll see. And I'm sure next year we'll be talking and something like this will happen once again that we can talk about for your pleasure. The final game is one of the first games so far. The second round started last night. You had the Montreal Canadiens winning 4-3 over the Boston Bruins in a 2 overtime. The Canadiens scored with about 5 minutes into the second overtime. Just what an awesome game overall. We said it last week. Original 6 matchups in the playoffs. You don't get better than that. And you've got 2 of the prominent, just all-time classic organizations, the Bruins and the Canadiens. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of how the Bruins lost the first game to the Red Wings. Now you have the Canadiens winning the first game. And I think you've got to be promised if you're a Canadiens fan right now. Carey Price did play well, gave up a couple goals in the third period. You can't let this Boston team off the hook. I mean, I think the Canadiens kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit, and that let Boston get into this game. You can't do that with Boston. You've got to just keep on pressuring them when you have a lead because they're just too physical. They're going to wear you down and get some goals. But I think we're in for a great series.
We most definitely are, Joe. This is a 7-game series. I'm telling you right now. This is the best series right now in the NHL playoffs. I have family in Montreal.
Oh, wow.
And I love when I get to talk to them about hockey. I'm like, so which team do you guys hate the most? And the Boston Bruins is the most hated team by a lot of Canadian fans. And me and my dad talk about this time to time. This is one of the hardest hitting series. Both teams despise each other. This is one of the biggest rivalries in sports. And this is a definite 7-game series. Montreal, I think, is going to win this one.
I agree. I think it's going to be a very close series. It could very well become a 7-game series, but I think that Montreal, I don't know, I just really like the confidence they're playing with right now. Sweeping Tampa Bay really gave that team a lot of confidence. They have a lot of depth. They have a good goalie in Carey Price. Tuukka Rask isn't a slouch for the Bruins either, but I do agree. I think that Montreal will win this series, but it's just been a great NHL playoffs. I think hockey doesn't get enough attention in this country, rightfully so in the regular season with all the other sports, but the NHL playoffs, I think out of all 4 major sports, just there's nothing like the speed and the intensity of an NHL playoff game. I just don't think anything else really compares to an NHL playoff game.
Yeah, nothing does. You are on there. I'm telling you right now, you'll start a game at 8 o'clock and you won't be going to bed till 2 in the morning because how many overtimes these games go into. When I tell you, you sit there, sometimes your favorite team, and your heart is just like going up and down, going crazy, out of control, because it's just so great, these hockey games. I love overtime in the NHL playoffs. It is the best. And the NHL, these guys are awesome. This is the best series I have seen. Every series in the NHL is awesome. And it's just the greatest part of the year, I think, come playoff time.
Absolutely, and my heart unfortunately was down for different reasons with my San Jose Sharks blowing a 3-0 lead. So that was tough, but overall, that's going to do it for our NHL playoff segment. When we come back, we're talking about a lot of the NBA situations from the week. The Donald Sterling comments, Mike D'Antoni being fired. So if you want to hear that, stick with us, and we will be right back.